session than before. We have only 4 papers. Papers still have to be presented the same way, about 15 minutes of presentation and a few minutes of Q&A. The first paper in our session is called Coverage Estimation in Heterogeneous Visual Sensor Networks. It's going to be presented by IoT. Correct?
My name is Jason, and I come here today to present the work of Multimedia and IoT. The name is Coverage Estimation in Heterogeneous Visual Sensor Networks. The multi-camera system application are ranging from security monitoring to surveillance, and in the systems they are deployed mainly expensive and high-resolution cameras in large areas. But these systems are not scalable and subject to decisions of human operators, and it is affordable to deploy many cameras because of the high cost of installation and system maintenance. The virtual sensor platforms are of small size and low cost, with imaging, onboard processing, and wireless communication. So the collaboration in sensor networks is necessary to compensate for the limitations of each node and to improve the accuracy and the robustness. There are many challenges in the actions. The first challenge is there are huge data volume of cameras. But there are limited energy source and low communication bandwidth. So we need to trade off between the local processing and the computational cost. The second challenge is that the directional sensing characteristic of the sensor. As we can see, the sensor has a limited field of view, and the FOV is less than 180 degrees. The third challenge is that there may have virtual illusions. The virtual sensor can capture a target only when the target is in the field of view and there are no other occluding targets. So it is not possible to cover all targets in a crowded environment by a single camera. As we can see from this picture that we want to detect the targets A and B, and the traditional detection model is in intersections of the back projected 2D virtual cones of targets. The models resolving on expense information and focus on how many sensors detect target existence at a single grid point. And the progressive certainty map is the union of the non-occupied areas in 2D virtual cone. How? And it resolves on non-existence information, and focus on how many sensors display as target non-existence at a single breakpoint. Here we introduce the coverage in sensor networks. In several sensor networks, based on the total number of coverage is based on the total number of nodes that captures an arbitrary target within their circular sensing length. We can see from the figure. But in virtual sensor networks, they are more challenging. It is more challenging because of unique features of cameras, as we have introduced as a directional sensing characteristic and the presence of virtual occlusion. The directional sensing characteristic and the presence of virtual occlusion. To reach a desired virtual coverage, the camera placings will not be predetermined through the random deployment and impractical to manipulate sensor rotation. But we can decide the sensor-related parameters before deployment, like the number of sensors, sensing range, and the field of view. The virtual coverage in a crowded area depending on sensor density and deployment, and the target density and the distribution. The occupancy map based coverage estimation. The trigger. We can see that when a target is in the detection area of the sensor, and there is no other targets in this area, and we can know that we can detect this target, and we use PK to donate the virtual coverage property that exactly K nodes cover a specific breakpoint in the sensing field to determine target extents or non-extents. Here we introduce free site as there is no target in the occlusion zone or partial appearance, and there is no target. If free site is variable, QL can be donated as this portion. But when partial appearance, QL is a random variable that depends on the location of occluding targets. Then the derivation of F2 becomes too complex. First, we use virtual coverage estimation without virtual occlusion. That is to say that the radius of the target is infinitely small, and we can ignore the virtual occlusion. A sensor node covers a specific grid point of sensing field if the node is located in a circular area A with a radius rho centered at the corresponding grid point xy. And that is to say the sensors in the circle can detect the and the sensor must orient towards the circle center. For example, this sensor is oriented toward the target, and it can detect the target. The virtual coverage is estimation without virtual conclusion, and the property PK can be limited by this equation. And this is the property that detectability area A contains exactly J sensor nodes from a Poisson process. And this is the number of the combinations of K nodes subset from a J node set. And P is the property of K many sensor nodes facing towards the center of detectability area. And this is the probability of not facing the node towards the center way. In more realistic scenario, heterogeneous virtual processors are deployed, and heterogeneous target existence, like the shown in these figures. First, in the circular there are two types of sensor, and in this there is type 2 sensor, and in this figure there are two types of targets, small one and large one. So the probability that K sensor nodes cover a specific grid point of the sensing field can be denoted as this equation. Where this is the probability that a detectability area contains exactly I many type 1 sensor nodes, and n of them can cover the corresponding grid point. And this means the probability that a detectability area contains exactly I many type 2 sensor nodes, and k and n of them can cover the corresponding grid point. There are two problems, that is heterogeneous sensor deployment without a virtual occlusion and with virtual occlusion. First, without virtual occlusions, we can get the PK as this. This is the property that a detectability area A1 contains exactly I many type 1 sensor nodes from a Poisson process. And Cn and C is the number of the combinations, and P is the property that M1 or N2 facing towards the center of A. Here we introduce virtual coverage estimation with virtual occlusion. In an environment with crowded targets, the target radius R becomes a finite value, and the virtual occlusion cannot be ignored. to cover a specific grid point of sensing field. The node is location in the circle, orienting toward the grid point, and all targets outside the operation zone between the grid point and the sensor node. To donate the property of covering a specific grid point of sensing field depends on the FOV of the sensor, and there should be no virtual occlusion, so we can get true like this. And the PK is the virtual coverage property that exactly cannot cover a specific grid point of the sensing field. So we get PK as this equation. And we get PK. Now we consider there are two types of sensors. And Q1 is the property that no type 1 targets in the occlusion zone. And Q2 is the property that no type 2 target in the occlusion zone. And PK is the coverage property. And we can get PK as this equation. PK is the equation of the property that a detectability area A contains exactly J many sensor nodes from a Poisson process, and the probability of that I many sensor nodes facing toward the center of A, and the probability that having no type 1 target in the occlusion zone, and the probability that having no type 2 target in the occlusion zone, and C is the number of combination. And we do some experiments, and the effectors of number of sensors, sensor range, angle of view, number of targets, target value are evaluated. And the theoretical results are consistent with our experiment. You can see from these figures. Yes. We make a conclusion here. A closed form solution for virtual coverage estimation problem in the presence of virtual occlusions among crowded targets in a VSN, and we deploy sensor follows a stationary portion point process. Derivation of the virtual coverage estimation possibly by modeling the target detection algorithm based on the target non-existent information. Heterogeneous sensor nodes and heterogeneous targets are likely to appear in sensing field. And we compare the simulation results and the theoretical values.
Are there any questions from the audience? I know you have one of the offers, so maybe we can skip this and then you can send your question directly to them just to make sure that you get the right answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the second paper for this session is called Adaptive Synchronization Control with Multi-Level Buffer and Wireless Multimedia Sensors. And it's going to be presented by Dr. Guotao Zhao from the Beijing diversity of post implementation.
My topic is about adaptive synchronization control in multi-level buffer in the network. This is our outline. I will describe the background. Okay. Then we will present the synchronization control scheme, the template, and discuss the performance evaluation. First, collaborative multimedia network processing and important technique in web multimedia network. From the figure, we can see that collaborative network processing is the base for many applications in web multimedia network. And we found that the collaborative in network processing will often require the effective multimedia synchronization control. For example, for the distribution system, we often select several optimal multimedia streams and suppress the other redundant methods to reduce the computation overhead. In this case, such signal processing technique requires stream synchronization to recognize and duplicate detection of the same event by different sensors. For the typical localization system, we evaluate the position of the monitored object by combining the multimedia streams from several sensors. In this case, the positioning accuracy is closely related to the performance of the synchronization. So, by the analysis of the background, we can conclude that the smooth network collaboration often requires effective synchronization control. Currently, extensive research has focused on the synchronization scheme in traditional distributed multimedia systems. Multimedia streams are often synchronized for fluent feedback of the presentation. Under the assumption that the synchronization controller is powerful. However, for the various multimedia sensor network, the media streams are synchronized for a network processing, which often require more flexible control. On the other hand, for the figure, we found that in network processing is usually performed based on the low-end hardware platform with limited memory and processing capacity. So the traditional method may be not suitable for the wireless multimedia sensor network. So in this paper, we propose an adaptive synchronization control scheme with multi-level buffer to address this problem. This is a contribution. We implement the synchronization control in a distributed way, and we can overcome the results constraints. On the other hand, we by evaluating the current network state, we can adjust the buffer level number. Finally, we also propose a active sharding scheme to reduce the jitter actively. This is the architecture of the synchronization control multi-level buffer. It consists of 4 steps. First, initially, the network processing executor acts as a synchronization controller. Diverse network links and the network traffic bursts always disturb the temporal relations of the media units. So, in the synchronization controller, we order the packet and eliminate the jitter. So the buffer management and then align the corresponding media units among various streams. When the network state is poor, large buffer is required to reduce the series jitter. So in this case, a single sensor can hardly undertake this problem. So in this case, we will combine several sensors in the stream transmission path and construct a multi-level buffer. First, we describe the basic adaptive buffer management. the buffer management is performed in the synchronization controller. It consists of 3 steps. In the first step, as the media unit arrives at the synchronization controller, once one of the receiving buffers is full, we align the stream in the old receiving buffer. And step 2, we render the synchronize the stream to the further network processing. For the step 3, the remaining media units in the receiving buffers are cached in the temporal space and attached to the alternate buffers. And the alternate buffer act as the receiving buffer and hold the next coming packets. When the network channel condition degrades and the traffic becomes serious, the buffer required for synchronization controlling will increase constantly. We perform the synchronization control with the multi-level buffer. Initially, the network processing executor acted as the synchronization controller. The buffer size is adjusted adaptively according to the detected packet loss. And when the buffer in the controller surpasses the memory constraint, its previous hope sensors in the routing path will be established at the slave node. And we can in the proposed scheme, we can regard the integrated synchronization as a tree, and the packet loss detection is performed in the root and leaf nodes. We decrease the buffer size when the packet loss of the master and the leaf node are both lower than the threshold. After an allocation of the maximum buffer size in the slave node, the buffer is adjusted and stabilized gradually according to the current network state. During the buffer adjustment in the slave node, if the required buffer size surpasses the memory constraint, a new slave node will be added as allowed. On the contrary, if the buffer size in the slave node reduced to 0, the level number of the slave node will be decreased accordingly. The multi-level buffer can release the packet loss caused by the traffic burst effectively. However, the multi-level buffer does little help the decrement of the stream average jitter. The jitter has direct correlation with the buffer size in the master node. So, in this section, we also propose an effective packet sharding scheme to reduce the effect. In each buffer, according to the carried generation time, we try the best to maintain the packet order of each stream. By this way, we can transmit the package in order and release the effect actively. On the other hand, we also perform an active jitter detection. So the jitter detection, through the active jitter detection, packet electrical will be discarded in time, and thus we can provide more results for packets within the jitter tolerance of the multimedia application. This is the performance evaluation, and it consists with the evaluation results. We focus on 2 parts: the effectiveness of the proposed synchronization control scheme and the performance of the sharding scheme. This is the metrics used in the evaluation: buffer size and average packet loss rate and average delay. In the first set of experiment, we test the performance of the proposed synchronization scheme. First, we perform the experiment when the boundary region threshold are set to a large value. We found that when the data transmission is high, the receiving buffer is increased adaptively to keep instance with the current data transmission rate. When the buffer size surpasses the memory constraint, for the proposed scheme, a new sleep node is added in the integrated synchronization controller, and the maximum buffer size is established to rapidly reduce the effect of the packet loss rate. However, for the traditional scheme with a single synchronization controller, the memory resource of one node is not enough. So the packet will have to be dropped for the buffer overflow. From the figure B, we found that for the proposed scheme, as the buffer size is adjusted, the packet loss rate can reduce adaptively. But for the traditional scheme, the high packet loss rate will be introduced. From the figure C, we describe the average delay of the received packets. In the experiment, the introduced delay overhead in the proposed scheme is no more than 200 milliseconds. The introduced delay, the additional delay may be caused by the request and the response communication among the master and the slave node. We think that it can be acceptable in most of our application. Next, we also evaluate the communication overhead introduced in our proposed scheme. During the experiment, we calculate the amount of data size for different kind of packets in the master. As shown in the figure, we can see that the ratio between the overhead and the multimedia data is very low. So from the experiment above, we can conclude that the proposed synchronization scheme performs better in the traditional scheme in the multimedia sensor network. Next, we also evaluate the performance of the active sharding scheme. For different traffic and memory constraint, we evaluate the packet loss rate by the delay jitter. From this figure, we can see that the proposed scheme reduced the packet loss rate greatly. In addition, we also evaluate the effect of the memory constraint in the master on the jitter elimination. We found that more packet loss rate is introduced. This is because a small receiving buffer can tolerate less jitter. This experiment also reveals that the performance of synchronization control has great correlation with the sensor results. In the future work, we are studying the effect of the data dependencies on the packet loss rate and try to further promote the performance of synchronization controller. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any questions for our speaker? Okay, I have a question. In your initial results, you showed average delays of around 1,000 milliseconds and packet losses of between 2 and 8%. Is that acceptable in general in wireless multimedia networks, in sensor networks? Because in multimedia networks in general, it's not acceptable. I think 8% of packet losses and 1 second of delays. But what's the issue here? I mean, what kind of applications do you consider that can be okay with these types of values?
Okay. Your question is whether the proposed synchronization control scheme can be applied in the traditional wireless network or distributed multimedia?
Not really. If the results you're seeing are comparable to what people expect, in other words, does your solution introduce delays that are not acceptable by others?
In the synchronization control, we also consider the actual activity, not expected.
Okay, understand. Anybody else? Let's thank the speaker one more time. The third speaker is Richard Meets from the University of Lübeck. He's working in the group of Professor K. Romer, and he's doing work in this real-world G-Lab project, which I understand is kind of a combination between embedded systems and devices with what we call Internet of Things. So that would be an interesting thing to understand what's going on. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So my outline is like this. I will start with the introduction where I give our motivation and explain some of the difficulties and also explain some of our design decisions. Afterwards, I will explain our system architecture of the framework, and in the end, I will give some evaluation results of our framework. So nowadays, there's a development towards the Internet of Things, where everyday objects like fridges or rooms are equipped with sensors which are connected to the internet. And these things want to publish their state on the internet so that other people can make use of these states. For example, also parking spots are equipped with sensors on the ground or on the top of it to see if the parking spot is occupied or not. For example, San Francisco has some system where users can see online if parking spots are free or not. The problem with these sensors here, for example, are very specialized to this one scenario. And what we want to have is something which is more flexible. So we want to use cameras. I hope it's the only slide where the pictures are covering with text. So there stands cameras are more flexible because they can capture an image, and from this image we can get more information as from these SCADA sensors. So we use sensor nodes, which have constrained resources, as we all know, and we want to use low-cost cameras. The problem with these cameras is they have a low resolution, poor image quality, and also because of the bandwidth of the network, often low frame rate we can achieve with these cameras. So for example, the camera we use has a maximum resolution of 640 times 480, and we can get around 4 to 5 pictures a minute out of the network if we transmit the whole picture. And we also want to transmit the whole picture because we shifted the processing of the picture to the gateway. Because it's more powerful, we can do more image processing instead of the node. So what we also want to have is a flexible framework. So we want to have we want to use it for several scenarios. For example, we want to see the state of a room, so is it occupied or not, or even see how many free seats are in this room. And we also want to cover the scenario where parking spots are occupied or not. So what do we have to capture? For the first two scenarios, we have to capture the room, and for the third scenario, we want to capture the parking spot. So this would be images we want to capture with the camera. So what objects we want to detect? On the first two images, we want to detect people because they are sitting in this room and then occupy the room. And in the third scenario, we have cars we want to detect. What are the challenges of these different scenarios? In the first two scenarios, it's possibly a lot of movement because we have many people walking into the room and out of the room. And in the third scenario, it's outdoor, so we have changing lighting conditions, so clouds, sun, etc. And which states we want to have from this scenario. So for the first, it's free or occupied, so the room is free or it's occupied. In the second, we want to have the exact number of persons so that we can conclude how many free seats we still have. We know the total number of seats in this room. And in the last scenario, we want to have the state free or occupied for each of the parking spots. So we have two parking spots. We want to know if one is free or two is free or none is free. So we have different challenges here. And so we developed a flexible framework to infer and publish these states of these three scenarios and other scenarios on the internet. So this is our system architecture. On the left, we have the sensor node with the camera. In the middle, we have the gateway, where the sink is, and on the right, we have the internet. I will explain every of these three parts in detail now. So the first part is the capturing of the image. So we have the camera equipped with sensor node, And we have two capture modes. The first one is time triggered, so at a fixed interval a new image is captured. And the second one is the event triggered, so we also have a peer on the sensor, so every time the movement is detected, the camera shoots a picture. The pictures are JPEG compressed, so that we don't have to transmit so many data. But still, it's some kilobytes, so we have to fragment the packets and transmit it to the gateway where they are reassembled. So here the efficiency can be adjusted a little bit by these two capturing modes. It might be sufficient only having pictures when something is detected, and sometimes it's maybe better to have a picture every 5 minutes. So then the picture is transmitted to the gateway where the processing will happen. So all of these steps now are really fully flexible and can be customized by the user. So first of all, the user could choose some regions in this image. So for example, you could say you have the parking spot A and the parking spot B. So you can mark some polygons on the image to have different regions. And each region is handled independently in the next steps. So for each region we will have a state in the end, a high-level state. For example, here we will have free or occupied. Then we can apply different filters. So we have lighting compensation filters, texture enhancement, and contrast enhancement. So that we, for example, can enhance the contrast, that we have dark regions like here, will be lightened then, and you can then see much better what happened. And also, so this is really useful for outdoor scenarios where we might have different lighting conditions. And also for indoor scenarios where maybe the light is not light enough. So we have to adjust a little bit. We can also orchestrate different filters and parameterize these filters. And so we can apply his own filter chain to these images. And so we can use it in different scenarios with different filters. The second step is then the object detection. First of all, we wanted to detect peoples, as I already said in the first two scenarios. So face detection is what we're thinking about, is a good idea. You can see here the face is marked with a red frame. However, if the people are wearing sunglasses or maybe they are too far away from the camera, face detection will not work. So we have a more general algorithm, which is the adaptive background subtraction, where the pixels are classified into foreign background, and they are adaptively learned, so they can also adapt to small changes, like, for example, if there are waving trees or some clouds, they are, after some time, recognized as background and not as objects anymore, as moving objects. But that can be parameterized in this algorithm, so the user can say how much it should adapt to different settings. Afterwards, we have a block detection, where, for example, this guy there down is detected as one block, and these blocks are our objects. So here we have one object in the scenario. So these information, this number of objects we have there, the number of blocks, and also the area they cover in each region, are given to the next step, which is the state inference. So we want to now have a high-level state. We not only want to have the number of objects or the area, we want to have some more elaborate, we want to know what happens now. So we have the rule-based state inference, where the user can have several rules, and they are evaluated one after another until the first matches. So looks, for example, for our first scenario, where we want to have the free or occupied state, looks like this. So we say, take the number of objects, so count, and map every special interval to some state. So for example, map the interval 0 to 1 to 3, and 1 to -1 is an alias for infinity to occupied. So if there's 0 objects in the picture, we have the state 3, because the right border is excluded. Then we have the state 3, and for 1 or more objects, we have the state occupied. So the next thing could be this one, for example, so you can have 7. You could say if there are 0 objects, then we have all seats free. If there are 10 to 45, then we have enough free seats. 45 to 70, almost full. And if there are more than 70 objects, we have no seats left. So this is, for example, the second scenario. For our parking spot scenario, it could look like this. So we again say if there are 0 objects, then 3. And if there are 1 object, then it's occupied. These rules are evaluated for each region. So what happened here, what would happen here now is that the left and also the right parking spot would be occupied, because there's in both parking spots one object. which is detected. So this will not work. So we have another option, which is we use the area which is covered by the object. This is also given by the step before from the object detection. So if the area is between 0% and 80%, then it's free. And if it's above 80%, then it's occupied. And so for the left region now, it would be occupied, and for the right region, it would be free, what we want to have. However, if the car parks there now for a long time, the background subtraction would again adapt to the background. And so in this picture, after some time, the parking spot would be free again, because the object is gone for the algorithm. And so it's, the state would be free, but that's not right. So we have another option to not map the states, but to have an event-based approach where we have like a state machine. So in the beginning we are free, and if we have a threshold of 80% exceeded, then we switch to the occupied state. So as soon as the car parks and it is detected, 80% of the area is at least covered, and so it switches to occupied. Then it stands there for some while, and if it drives away, then it again 80% is detected and it switches back to free. So we will always have the correct state for this parking slot. Same is working for the other one. So in the end then, we want to publish this state. This is a relatively simple thing we want to do. Our framework supports every text format like HTML, LEF, TXT. The user can give a file, and in this file there are some variables which are exchanged by the information we got before, like the region. So the user can name the region, which is then feed into this template, and also the state and the time. And these template is then uploaded via FTP, or it can also be published via Twitter. And the last possibility is to fed the data, so the state with the region and the time, to an SQL database. And then it's on the web and everybody can access it. So we also have an evaluation. So you already saw some pictures of this lecture hall. We put a camera in front of the lecture hall to capture the whole lecture hall and want to estimate the number of students. So that's our second scenario. But we also want to look at the binary state. So the first scenario, free and occupied. And we used one region, so we used the whole picture. We used this adaptive background subtraction because face detection is not really good working if the people are sitting far away from the camera. So with the background subtraction, you can better see or detect more people. And we use in the beginning none of these filters I explained before. Later on, I will also show some evaluation results with filters applied to the images. So we are divided into three phases. First of all, where the people are entering into some graphs. The second one is where they are sitting while the lecture with not so many movements, because they are hiding behind the laptop or they are sitting really still. And in the end where they are leaving the lecture hall because the lecture is over. So what will happen is that you will see these pictures. Here on the left is the original picture. On the right we have the processed picture with the block detection. And the numbers down here says the original number on the left and the estimated number on the right. So in the first picture we have one guy coming to the lecture hall, and it's one guy also detected. But we will have some underestimation. For example, in the second row we have 3 guys there, but it's detected as one block. So when several persons are identified as one, we have some underestimation, as well if persons are not recognized because they are not moving. For example, in the fourth row, the guy is sitting so still that it, after some time, is becoming background. So it's not detected as foreground as such, so as moving object anymore. But we will also have some overestimation. For example, here we have some legs which are recognized as an individual because there's some table between that, so it's not recognized as one person but as 2. And that explains the overestimation, underestimation error in the next slide. So here's the slide from the first phase, so the beginning of the lecture, where the people are entering. We have here the baseline, so the actual number of persons we counted manually. Oh no, this one. This one is the baseline, and this is the estimated number. The green area is the underestimation, and the red area is the overestimation. So as you can see, we have a relatively high overestimation of 130% and a relatively high of 70% in the underestimation error. And so the second scenario where we want to measure the free seats is not that good, but the binary states, so free or occupied, are always correct in each of these pictures. So on the x-axis we have the picture number, and on the y-axis we have the number of persons. In the second phase, we only have underestimation because many people are recognized as background because they are sitting still, and the maximum is 105%, but still the binary state is always correct. And in the third phase, we have some underestimation error of 222 and a relatively high overestimation because it's 0. And this is the first time where the binary state is also not correct because with 0 persons, it's the room state is free, but it's still occupied because there's still some persons. So this seems not very good, but we also use some filters to improve this result. So we played back the same images and applied some filter combinations. The blue line here is the actual number of persons, which we counted again manually, so it's the same number as before. And then we have different filter combinations, which are contrast improvements and so on. And also the same estimation as before without the filter, which we saw before. And what we can see now is that, for example, the yellow line is near the estimation as before, and the green line is really overestimating all the time. So what we can already see is that different image filters can significantly change the estimation. What we then also did is with the same results with some with the same filter, with the Klana, which is the contrast filter, and change the parameters. I don't know explain what the parameters are now here, but what we can see here again is the red line, what we had before without filters, is much underestimating, but the green and the yellow line are much better estimating now our actual number of persons. And what we can now not see is there is some text which is saying that the average error is only 12% now. So it's much better than before. Before we were around 40 to 70% average error, and now we are 12%. So we can really significantly change the estimation. But this is up to the user what filter he wants to apply, and it's a little bit of intuition you need to apply these filters. So you have to look at your scenario, what conditions you have, and then you have to somehow see a little bit what works good for you. But you can always do that in the software because you always see the original image and can apply different filters and see what it looks like and how the estimation is, and then if it's good, you can deploy it and use it. So what we did is we presented a flexible framework which is using low-cost cameras and is usable in diverse scenarios, and it's fully customizable to the user in each of the steps. And the accuracy can be quite high if you choose the right combination of filters and so on. And binary states are often, most often correctly computed. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Very interesting topic and many questions. Let's start from here.
For your expensive cameras, how difficult it is to not send the entire picture, but the difference from the picture that you sent before, that allows you to send pictures at very high rate. I mean, higher rate than your own.
Yeah, so first of all, the camera needs some time to capture the picture and also to then compress it, so this is also in the time you need for transmitting it. And then you have to process it on the node. I cannot really say how much it takes for power and so on. It also depends on the node.
But is the camera capable of doing that?
No, it's only capturing and JPEG compressing hardware, nothing else.
Okay, I have a question because your first two scenarios are basically about counting people, and instead of these blocks, have you checked any like face recognition algorithms? Because I see like these Google Picasa or iPhoto, they're frighteningly good at flowing through photos and just identifying all the faces, and maybe this might be more correct or more good estimate even.
We implemented the face detection,
Yeah.
You can use it if you want, but for the scenario in the evaluation, we took the background subtraction because, as I said, if people are sitting in back rows, it's really hard for the face detection algorithm to detect them on this small resolution.
They're really good. I mean, I think maybe you should really try these customer.
So it's even working on 10 times 10 pixels. That's the question. I mean, because it's really small and maybe.
Sometimes you make a photo of a newspaper and it says that there's something. And really, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I think in the real life scenarios, a single camera will not be sufficient to capture the state of the environment, because usually the area is big angles for a single camera. So I think maybe it's better you can correlate pictures from different cameras to some network processing.
Yeah, that's might also be a good idea. But for example, for our scenarios, it worked well. So, and I think there are a lot of scenarios where it also works well, but maybe there are scenarios where it's better to have several cameras. Yes, yeah. But then also the whole steps after that are somehow more complex, because then the rule stays, inference is more complex and so on.
Okay, I have one question as well. First, are you using those Cyclops cameras? No. Okay. What cameras are you using? Because they're not very.
It's an iSense sensor nodes, and they also supply some camera. I don't know the exact fact now how it is, but I could look that up in the homepage.
And where exactly is this processing taking place?
It's taking place on the computer. So we use the OpenCV library, which is some image processing library, and implemented some algorithm ourselves with the help of this OpenCV library, and the rest is written with C, so C++.
Okay, so you collect the different images at different rates,
but
and then
the things afterwards is always done on one image. So not on the sequence of image, always a new image is processed. Only the background subtraction algorithm is learning from.
Thank you very much. The last paper for this session is called Insight, Localizing and Tracking Household Objects Using Depth Camera Sensors. It's from the group of John Stankovic at the University of Virginia, right?
Yes.
And it's going to be presented by Sashi Prat. And it should not be recorded. Okay.
Neuron neurons, right? He couldn't get figures, so I'm filling in for them. Try my best. This paper is actually very related to the previous talk. See here, the work is to track objects in household. And in this work, the authors are able to assign 3D locations to household objects. And the date the assignment and objects are moved. For example, you have this red cup, doesn't have a pointer. Okay. So this step is at some location at a certain time, and then this moves. So we want to update this new location, right? Which is down. And also, one goal is to recognize the activities. For example, let's say you have a cup and a coffee maker, then you may want to tell that, okay, I mean, somebody is in the kitchen or preparing coffee, or somebody is in the living room and having some entertainment. So the approach these authors take is not to attach RFIDs to objects, but use some vision-based system. So they are using cameras called Net, it's made by Microsoft, and it's able to supply depth information. So on the left side, you have this picture of some living room, and on the right side is the depth information. And you can see in this part, this is coming from the room that's next. So for the indirect tracking, basically they are doing two things. They are tracking the humans, which is supplied by Kinect library. So it allows you to track some 20 parts of human body. And the system also detects interactions, so hand with the person. So the basic philosophy of the solution is that you have, after sensing, you have 3 phases. In the first phase, there is some detection of motion. So once motion is detected, then the system tries to load context information, which is like things that are nearby, which is labeled as object loading here. And then in the second phase, once you detect that there is a motion, you sample the events in real time. Because again, as the last speaker said, it's generally not possible to send images at high frequency. And then in the third phase, when you have some idle time, you send this image to some central location where it's processed. So this study is again mainly on household objects locations. There are 2 main algorithms that are used. There's one called depth sweep algorithm, and the other one is called context-oriented object recognition. Both are vision-based algorithms, and they have a prototype system called Insight, which is evaluated. This study had some objects that you can see used in daily life. And the first observation was that most objects remain at very few locations. So you see here the largest stamp that's dark blue. It says that most objects are found at one location. The lighter blue has 2 locations. The 3 locations is depicted in yellow, and you see the percentage is quite low here. The second observation is that the longer you observe, the more objects you need to track. And so, for example, see for 500 seconds, right? You see about 20 objects need to be tracked in general. For some activities, activity is still low, but some others activity is growing. And in the paper, I saw that 20 happens to be the number that's the limit to this certain process of objects and do the tracking. Again, the main component that this thing is going to work is that you need to have sufficient idle times between real-time observation of the objects and offline processing to be able to have some meaningful tracking. And they have basically they're trying to establish that, okay, I mean, this is logical. So you see all the green bars are basically idle times. So when you're cooking, the idle time is less, but basically it's 2 seconds. In some other activities like eating, it's about 30 seconds or something. So in general, it indicates that it's very low. So the first algorithm was object extraction. It has 2 steps. First, you obtain color and depth image. So this is an image of a guy with football and some background. And on the right side, you have the depth image information coming from Connect. And you can just pick the part that has the same depth. So that tells you that there's a guy with football in his hand. And then also it said Connect info provide some information on your body parts, how they move and where they are. And so here with this, there is some algorithm that runs and we tell that the guy is going to move football. Okay. So then there are some evaluations. So here, it's still some observation. So the idea is that if you use only appearance, right? So then the red cup appears to be different from the green cup, and on the right side we have the star, and here you have the confidence indicator that so for this object it shows that it's unlikely to be the green cup and it shows that it will be the red cup. Okay? So suppose if you replace that green cup with some red cup, plastic cup over the top, and then you get more or less the same confidence for both times. Okay. So here you can use some context information to improve the confidence, basically. And that's sort of it. So for if you apply context, then you see the confidence for the red cup is much higher, and the confidence that it's plastic cup is most. So they have evaluated the effects for distance, speed, sampling rate, color, size, and as you can guess that the objects that are further have larger errors. That's basically here. So on the left side it's without context, and see as the distance increases, the measurement area increases, and recognition also increases. Inside which is context information, the errors remain low. And again for speed, net works much better. The measurement and information are much lower than for the real-time phase in top, there is some sampling, and after sampling you send the image for processing. You see, if you are not supplying context, then again for lower sampling rates, the errors are higher. But for inside, when the context is applied, still the errors are small. Although I don't know what the answer is. Okay. Well, this is basically one calculation weakness in the system. So if you have, for example, transparent system, right? Then the errors are considerably higher than for the regular copying. Copy of the same system copy of the same object sitting next to each other. And numerically, they found established that the errors are. So if the objects are within 13 centimeters, it's hard to distinguish one from the other. That's the moral of this evaluation. The effects of size. So again. Common sense would say that the smaller the object is, the larger the error you're going to have. But for this system, the errors, of course, are large for tiny objects, but still make it smaller than if you are not using the objects. And I think this would be a weakness because, in my opinion, the most objects you want to track are small, like car keys or small things that move a lot and that are hard to find. That might be much harder. Again, it relates to some question that they were asking over there. So if here they have used an evaluation when they compare one time number with 2 and let's combine them, and you see when you combine them, the percentage of the time when it actually recognizes an object increases. here a number of activities are basically evaluated. The 6 activities: cleaning, coffee making, cooking, entertaining, and you can see that the errors for number 1, 2, and 5 are much smaller than 3, 4, and 6. And that is because in cleaning, coffee making, and entertainment, the less number of objects are used. And for cooking, this is the conclusion. The system that uses that method to apply also objects. Uses four types of information: color, depth, activity, context, and the question history. And it supplies you with a collection that's about 13 centimeters in average. I'll try my best, but I don't guarantee anything.
Yeah, thanks. If there are any questions, maybe we can ask here, or if there are any open issues, we can always send them to the others. I think that's the best solution. So this concludes this session, session on multimedia. I think it's time for a break, right? So let's keep this short, 15 minutes max, and be back in time for the next session. I would like to remind the authors, the presenters of the next session, to upload their presentations now. Thanks.
One thing to announce, the board for posting your poster is outside the blue board. If you have a poster, you're welcome to put it up now. Can I ask who's in the next session here? Just oh, right there.
我要再等等。我其实有一个在玩，这前天晚上就，然后9点40已经开放了，昨天晚上就那个就挂了，公司就挂了。